Hello YouTube, this is Corbin22 here, back with another Squadron build for Star Wars X Miniatures. Tonight I'm going to do things differently tonight. Rather than focus on a 100-point build, I'm going to start thinking up of scenarios. Like it can be scenarios that are tied to the movies or to the games, or they can be kind of what-if scenarios that I've kind of come up with. So yeah, it's going to be a kind of a new thing for me that will kind of go in between my 100-point Squadron builds. And yeah, this for tonight's build, I've chosen to make a what-if scenario of my own thinking. It kind of got me wondering. You know, at the end of the first Death Star battle, where Luke fired that shot into the exhaust port of the Death Star, and Vader was sent off flying thanks to the Millennium Falcon. Well, it got me thinking, and this was actually kind of borrowed from one of the Star Wars comics, like kind of a what-if scenario. Like, you know, as you can see, only 4 ships survived the well, 3 if you don't count the Falcon, but 4 ships survived the assault on the Death Star, and they are a Y-wing piloted by a Gold Squadron pilot, the Millennium Falcon or YT-1300 piloted by Han Solo and his co-pilot Chewbacca, and 2 X-wings piloted by both Luke Skywalker and Wedge Antilles. These ships are the only 4 to return back from the Death Star attack out of 30 ships. So it got me thinking, what if Vader here somehow managed to regain control of a ship, rally some extra leftover fighters that managed to escape the explosion, and decide to go after the surviving rebels before taking on the base, the rebel, before going back to notify the Emperor of the destruction of the Death Star. So what I've got here is I've got what I've got here is I got 5 TIE fighters and 1 TIE Advanced. Got the TIE Advanced piloted by Darth Vader himself, and we've got 5 TIE fighters, all piloted by Black Squadron pilots. And yeah, that's kind of the idea behind the what-if scenario. The rebels are heading back to Yavin base, but what's left of the Black Squadron and what's left of the Black Squadron, as well as Darth Vader, are moving to intercept to stop the rebels from getting back to the rebel base. So I'd say the objective, I didn't really go with squadron points because this is kind of like a what-if scenario. So for these particular videos, a squadron point limit is kind of moot. What I've done is the objective of the rebel ships is to cause as much damage as possible to the opposing forces before reaching the other end of the the field, which will allow them to escape to Yavin base. And for the Imperials, their objective is to destroy all the rebel ships. And for this particular build, I would say the Imperials have the initiative. So let's move on to the ships I've chosen. We'll start with the Rebel faction. So the ships I have here for the Rebel faction, 4 ships, all of them modified to kind of match their parameters that they would have in the Battle of Yavin. So we'll start with the big ship of the group. And that is, going to the light here, and that is Han Solo. He has a pilot skill of 9. He flies a Corellian YT-1300 freighter. He has an attack value of 3, and it's a turret weapon, so he can fire in any direction. He has an agility value of 1, a hull value of 8, and a shield value of 5. He can take on the focus and lock-on points. He costs 46 squadron points, but since this is kind of like a what-if scenario, squadron points are kind of moot. And he can take on an elite pilot talent, a missile upgrade, and 2 crew slots. His ability states, when attacking, you may reroll all of your dice. If you choose to do so, you must reroll as many of your dice as possible. So if you're Han Solo and you don't like the roll you have, you can choose to reroll that roll. You can choose to reroll that attack. However, you must reroll all of your dice, is basically what it's saying. So Han Solo has an attack value of 3. If you were to choose to reroll, if you were to choose to reroll, you must reroll every single one, all 3 dice, regardless if you got like a hit or a focus or whatever. So yeah, with Han Solo, it's kind of like a double tap, but the trade-off is you have to roll all of your dice. Now, for the upgrades I've given him, the first upgrade I've chosen is an engine upgrade, and it's a modification that states your action bar gains the boost action icon. So that means the Millennium Falcon can now perform what the A-Wings and TIE Interceptors can do, and they can boost, which would be handy for getting out of sticky situations. Now, for his title card, I've given him the Millennium Falcon. It's meant for the YT 1300 only, and it states your action bar gains the evade action icon. So, thanks to these modification and title cards, the Han Solo can now perform a boost, can now perform a target lock, a focus, a boost, and evade action. So that means he's pretty much got the same actions as an A-wing now, which is pretty good. Now for his actual upgrades, his elite pilot talent, I've chosen Draw Their Fire. And Draw Their Fire states, get this to focus, oh, it's out of focus, there we go. Draw Their Fire states, when a friendly ship at range 1 is hit by an attack, you may suffer one of the uncancelled critical results instead of the target ship. So with Draw Their Fire, if any of the rebel ships, any of his wingmates, are within range 1 of him, and they were to suffer a critical damage, Han Solo can suffer that critical damage instead. And it works especially well if you still have shields up, because if you hit a shielded ship, regardless if you get hits or criticals, the shields will absorb the damage before it hits the hull. Once the hull is exposed, though, then criticals are what you have to watch out for those. For his missile upgrade, I've chosen a Concussion missile. And it states, it has attack value 4, it can be used at range 2 to 3, and it states, spend your target luck and discard this card to perform this attack. You may change one of your blank results to a hit result. So basically, the Concussion missile basically has the same effect as a Proton torpedo. The only difference being is that, with a Proton, if you have a focus, you can change it to a critical. With a Concussion missile, if you have a blank, you can change it to a hit result. So concussions have a better chance of hitting than a Proton torpedo, in my opinion, because with Protons, you need to get that focus to score critical. But with Concussion missiles, if you roll a blank, you're more likely to get a blank. So yeah, you can change that to a hit, and that'll help guarantee your hits. Now for his only crew, I've chosen Chewbacca. It's a crew member only for the Rebel Alliance, and it states, when you are dealt a damage card, you may immediately discard that card and recover one shield. Then discard the upgrade card. So with Chewbacca, he's kind of like R2-D2 in that sense. He, if you're dealt a hull damage card, you can discard that immediately and recover one shield, but the trade-off is you'd have to discard it or flip the card over. So Chewbacca's kind of like a one-time shield recovery thing, which is pretty useful when you have an upgrades like Draw Their Fire, because yeah, it'll help you absorb that extra critical and not suffer its effects or its side effects. So now let's move on to the next rebel ship. And our next ship is the pilot that destroyed the Death Star himself. Get this to focus. Yep, Luke Skywalker. He has a pilot skill of 8. He flies the Incom T-65 X-Wing. He has an attack value of 3, an agility value of 2, a hull value of 3, and a shield value of 2. You take on the focus and lock-on actions. Cost 28 points, but again, points are moot in this particular scenario. And he can take on an elite pilot action, a warhead, elite pilot talent skill, a warhead upgrade, and a Astromech upgrade. His ability states, when defending, you may change one of your focus results to a hit result. So Luke Skywalker, it somewhat eliminates the need of a focus token, because if you're defending and you get one focus, you can immediately change that to a evade result, allowing for Luke Skywalker a better chance of evading enemy shots. Of course, you'll need a focus for the rest of the. Of course, you will need a focus token for the rest of the focus results that you get when rolling a defense dice. But yeah, for his first upgrade, his modification is a Munitions Failsafe, which states, when attacking with a secondary weapon that instructs you to discard it to perform the attack, do not discard it unless the attack hits. So Munitions Failsafe, your warheads and your missiles are safe as long as they miss their target. So that means you can keep the warhead, you spend the target a lot, but you keep the warhead until it actually hits. That's a hit, regardless of how many hits it takes, and then you can discard the card. Now for his upgrades. Again, staying as true to the movie as possible. His first upgrade, I've chosen Deadeye. Deadeye states, you may treat the attack header target lock. You may treat the attack target lock header as attack focus. It states, when attack instructs you to spend a target lock, you may spend a focus token instead. So with Deadeye, it treats all of your focus tokens as lock-ons if you're using a secondary. So if you have Proton Torpedoes, so if you have like a secondary and you equip Deadeye to this to the ship, then you can substitute a focus token instead of a lock-on in order to use that that secondary. Speaking of secondaries, his warhead, is a standard issue Proton Torpedo. They have an attack value of 4, can be used at range 2 to 3. They state, spend your target log and discard this card to perform this attack. You may change one of your focus results to a critical hit result. So again, like with the concussion missiles, which allow you to change a blank for a hit, the Proton Torpedoes allow you to change a focus to a critical. So it kind of eliminates the need of a Luke's ability plus protons kind of eliminates the ability of taking the focus action, because they both allow you to change one focus result to a critical or an evade result. And of course, you'll need that if you choose to use Deadeye. You're going to need that focus in order to use it, in order to take full advantage of it. Now for his Astromech, again staying true to the scenario, we'll have R2-D2. And his ability states, after executing a green maneuver, you may recover one shield up to your shield value. So with R2-D2, as long as you keep performing green maneuvers, Luke Skywalker will always have his shields, which is good. The only problem with that is the X-Wing only has about 4 green maneuvers. You can it's speed 1, all of its speed 1 maneuvers and its straight ahead speed 2 maneuver are all greens. So yeah, you have some leverage when you want to recover your shields, but not that much. So if you're going to use R2-D2, make sure you're in a safe position before you decide to, or at least you're in a position to counterattack when you decide to use R2's ability. Now for the next ship in the build is Luke's best friend and future leader of Rogue Squadron, Wedge Antilles. Wedge Antilles has a pilot skill of 9. He flies the Incom T-65 X-Wing. He has an attack value of 3, an agility value of 2, a hull value of 3, and a shield value of 2. You take on the focus and lock-on actions, cost 29 squadron points, and he's able to take on, like Luke, he's able to take on an elite pilot skill, a warhead, and an Astromech upgrade. His ability states, when attacking, reduce the defender's agility value by 1 to a minimum of 0. So with Wedge's ability, it's like having outmaneuver, except you don't have to be outside the enemy's firing arc. With Wedge Antilles, regardless of where you attack, what angle you attack them from, their agility value will always be reduced to 1. Will be reduced by 1. I'm sorry. Which helps because all of the TIE fighters that he's up against will have agility values of 3. So by reducing their agility value by 1, by that much, will allow him a better chance of hitting his opponent, especially if he's attacking at range 1. And for his modification, like with every ship, like with every other ship in this Rebels, he also has a munitions failsafe. Hang on. And yeah, I won't go over it. It allows you to keep your secondary if you miss. Pretty straightforward. For his elite pilot talent, I have chosen Opportunist. An Opportunist states, when attacking, if the defender does not have any focus or evade tokens, you may receive a stress token to roll 1 additional attack die. You cannot use this ability if you have any stress tokens. So with Opportunist, it works especially well with Wedge's ability, and it also works well with if he flies alongside Han Solo, because you can always make Han Solo attack the target first, get rid of their focus or evade tokens, and then Wedge can come in with his ability, reduce the agility value of the ship by 1. And then, of course, stress him out with Opportunist to allow him to get that extra attack. And hopefully, with that 2-pronged attack, you will be able to destroy the target within 2 attacks with 2 different ships. And for his warhead, I've chosen to give him, like Luke, I've also given him Proton Torpedoes. Range attack value 4, range 2 to 3. Spend your target lock to perform this attack. You may treat 1 focus as a critical. So again, kind of eliminates the need of a focus token because it automatically changes one of your focuses to a critical, which is doubly good against the TIEs because they have all the TIE fighters because they have no shields. Then for his Astromech, like true to the scenario, I've given him R5-D8. And it states, on the action phase, roll 1 defense die. On a hit or evade or a focus result, discard 1 of your face-down damage cards. So kind of like with R2-D2, whereas if you do a green maneuver to recover a shield, R5-D8 focuses on recovering hull damage. However, he can only get rid of face-down hull damage. So any criticals that Wedge has suffered cannot be removed. But yeah, with R5-D8, if you get at least 1 hull damage that's face-down, you can use his action. Roll 1 defense dice. On a focus or invade result, you can get rid of that. He'll repair your hull and keep you at full strength, so to speak. Which is especially useful with Han Solo because he can He can also use Draw Their Fire if he's at range 1 to take the criticals for him, allowing for R5 to keep repairing his hull and continue on fighting. Now for the last ship of this build, I've chosen a Gold Squadron pilot. He has an attack, a pilot skill of 2. He flies the Koyansar BTL Y-Wing. He has an attack value of 2, an agility value of 1, a hull value of 5, and a shield value of 3. He can take on the focus and lock-on actions. He costs 18 squadron points, and is able to take on a turret weapon upgrade, 2 warheads, and an Astromech. He has no abilities because he's a common pilot, but that's okay because, again, going by the scenario, it was unspecified who the Gold Squadron pilot was that managed to escape with Luke, Wedge, and Han Solo. So yeah, we're just going with the generic Gold Squadron pilot. He also has the Munitions Failsafe, and for his upgrades, I've first started with an ion cannon turret. Has an attack value of 3 and can be used at range 1 to 2. It states, attack one ship even outside your firing arc. If this attack hits the target ship, the target suffers 1 damage and receives 1 ion token, then cancel all dice results. So the ion cannon turret, it's pretty useful for disabling any of the fighters that get too close, because they will, if you're lucky and you disable them when they're about to go off the edge of the board, that'll count as abandonment, and that ship will count as being destroyed. Or if you want, you can use the Y-Wing's ion cannons to allow the X-Wings and the Millennium Falcon to get into a firing arc and attack them from behind, or whatever angle they decide to attack from. For his first warhead, I've chosen to give him some extra munitions. And they state, when you equip this card, place 1 ordnance token on each of your equipped warhead, missile, and bomb upgrade cards. When you are instructed to discard an upgrade card, you may discard 1 ordnance token on that card instead. So with extra munitions, basically he'll have... the extra munitions takes up 1 warhead slot, but it allows the ship that is equipped with the extra munitions to carry more than one of the same warhead, missile, or bomb, which is extremely handy because the Y-Wing is a heavy bomber, so it needs all the payload it can get, and plus extra munitions helps reduce the cost of extra warheads, because ships that can take 2 warheads, say you want to put on 2 advanced torpedoes, those cost 6 each, and that's going to rack up your squadron point. That's going to rack up your squadron point total even more. With extra munitions, that cuts the cost down by 4, allowing you to have extra points for extra ships or war upgrades or whatever. Now for his actual warhead, like with the X-Wings, I've chosen to give him Proton Torpedoes, as true to the scenario. By now you pretty much all know what those do. And for his Astromech, I've chosen to give him an R2 Astromech, which states you may treat all 1 and 2 speed maneuvers as green maneuvers. Handy for getting rid of stress, I must say, because the Y-Wing only has, unlike the X-Wing, the Y-Wing only has 2 green maneuvers, and that's at straightforward 1 and straightforward 2. With the R2 Astromech, all of its speed 1 and 2 maneuvers are treated as green maneuvers, allowing him to get into a better position and get rid of any stress that he's acquired, either from going through a debris field or from doing hard maneuvers, or red maneuvers, sorry. So this is the Imperial Rebel build, sorry. Let's look at the Imperial build I have here. The Imperial build is Imperial build's going more for numbers rather than quality. What I've chosen are a TIE Advanced and 5 TIE Fighters, all of them pretty much generic pilots except for the TIE Advanced. So we'll start with that one first. I've chosen as the squadron leader, I've chosen to have, Darth Vader. He has a pilot skill of 9, he flies the Sonar Fleet System's TIE Advanced X1. He has an attack value of 2, an agility value of 3, a hull value of 3, and a shield value of 2. You take on the focus, lock-on, barrel roll, and evade actions. He costs 29 points. He's able to take on an elite pilot talent and a missile upgrade. His ability states, during your perform action step, you may perform 2 actions. So Vader allows you to perform 2 actions, but I think the rule states that you can't perform 2 of the same action. So you can perform a focus or a boost, a focus or evade, focus and barrel roll, a lock-on, and whatever. Yeah, allows you to perform 2 different actions, so to speak. Or, not so to speak, sorry. I've also given him a Munitions Failsafe because he is the only ship of this build that can take on a secondary. And for his elite pilot skill, I have chosen Swarm Tactics. It says, at the start of the combat phase, choose 1 friendly ship at range 1. Until the end of this phase, treat the chosen ship as if its pilot skill were equal to yours. So if any one of these Black Squadron, any one of these his wingmates are close to him within range 1, he can choose one of them, and it'll have the same pilot skill as Vader, allowing him to attack alongside of Vader. For pretty much an instant 2-pronged attack. Now for his missile, I've chosen cluster missiles. They have an attack value of 3, can be used at range 1 to 2, and they state, spend your target lock and discard this card to perform this attack twice. So cluster missiles arguably is one of my favorite missile upgrades, because you attack once, and if that attack misses, you get a second chance right away. All for attack value 3. So ultimately you have like ultimately you got 6 shots, 3 at each attempt. They can be used to range 1 to 2, so you gotta be fairly close, but you know, I guess you could say they're short range missiles, and basically it's just one missile that splits into like 6 other components. So yeah, good for taking out multiple enemies at once. Now for the rest of the build, I've chosen 5 Black Squadron pilots. They have an attack value. They have a pilot skill of 4, and they all fly the Sonar Fleet System's TIE Fighter. They have an attack value of 2, an agility value of 3, a hull value of 3, and a shield value of 0. They can take on the Focus, Barrel Roll, and Evade actions. All cost 14 points, and they can take on an Elite Pilot talent. They're common pilots, so they have no abilities, but they can take an Elite Pilot skills to compensate for that. Now each of them have 2 different upgrades, because I couldn't find one. I couldn't find 5 of the same one. So for a few of them, I've given them Determination, and that states, when you are dealt a face-up damage card with the pilot trait, discard it immediately without resolving its effect. So Determination pretty much protects you from any criticals that affect the pilot and not the ship. So basically what that means is, if it affects the pilot, if the critical affects the pilot, it's pretty much discarded, and you don't resolve its effect. So Determination's good with the TIE Fighters, because they have no shield, so they're more susceptible to criticals. And unlike with Adrenaline Rush, you don't discard it. It stays on the ship for as long as it's still in battle. And for the remaining 2, I've chosen to give Wingman. It states, at the start of the combat phase, remove 1 stress token from another friendly ship at range 1. So Wingman pretty much allows the any Black Squadrons that any of the other Black Squadron pilots, or Darth Vader if they're close to him, allows them to remove that stress at the start of the combat phase, which will make it easier for them to you can perform a red maneuver, or rather, yeah, one Black Squadron, one of the Black Squadrons flies towards another one, or Vader at the previous turn did a K turn or whatever, or a hard maneuver that caused him distress, and then of course Wingman will allow him to get rid of that stress right at the start of the combat phase. So there's that going for them. So yeah, this is the Imperial build, and like I said, this is kind of like a what if scenario. So the key behind this scenario is the Rebels have to get from point A to point B, and the Imperials have to stop the Rebels from getting from one side of the field to the other. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. This is kind of like my so yeah, this is my Death Star after assault what if scenario. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Any constructive criticism is greatly appreciated. If you like, you can use this. You can use this for your own scenario if you like, or you can tweak it out or revamp it to whatever you like, whatever you desire. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Corbin22 signing off.